Welcome back, everybody. We're on the Mental Muscle Podcast. Now, it's been over a year since my last episode. Now, this is special for multiple reasons because we're in the newly founded One House. This is a facility where I created where we'll have podcasts, cognitive training, meetings, the whole smorgasbord of mind, body, one methods in one place. Now, the other part of why it's special, because I got a guy here who has a rich history with me personally and getting to where I'm at today, but also the fact that he has an illustrious background that can definitely help you guys get your mind right. So with that being said, give him a quick, maybe 1 minute overview of who you are, what you've done, and then we'll get into what we came to do.
Awesome. What's going on, Mental Muscle community? I'm HRose. People know me online, my persona, 1080 Speed. My name is, I coach at Vanderbilt University. I do vertical jumps and I assist with multis there. Work with an amazing staff. Prior to that, I worked with Olympic athletes in Canada. Prior to that, I worked in the private sector, working with, major league players, NFL players, some hockey, some swimming, you name it, from, 8 to 80, essentially. And then, prior to that, I was in the Division I ranks before that. And, just a part of my journey, getting the opportunity to work through multifacets and see different lanes and, find out where you fit in, right? So that's a bit about my journey.
So we typically, if you're new to this channel, this podcast is not meant to be just a life story of where he started and where he's at. Obviously, that overview was just a short snapshot. It's more so to give the audience an understanding of what we do. Mental performance and Mind, Body, One Way philosophy is doing that in a multidisciplinary approach, meaning it can look a lot of different ways. So the goal of this is we want to take from your life, your experiences, and obviously I'll interject. And since we personally have a relationship, there will be some overlaps on how we can get them right. So let's start with this. Since, like I said, having a guest like you where I actually know your background is pretty cool. And then you have a part of my story. So let's start with this one. Got to.
Okay.
January-ish, give or take, spring, let's say spring, just spring semester 2008 at the great Bethune-Cookman University. Let's set the stage real quick. I've talked about this on some of my videos, but I'll give you a quick overview if you don't know. I was a collegiate athlete. He was a collegiate athlete in track and field. He was our team captain. He was a MEAC champion, record holder in decathlon. And when I came to Bethune-Cookman, he was 2 years ahead. I emailed every athlete there on MySpace. For those who are a little bit younger, you may not know what that is. Or you may have just heard of it. So he actually responded to me. Because I'm a go-getter. I've always been a go-getter. I always reach out to people above me because I think if they can show me what they know and I can use my hard work ethic, this is going to make me better. So he responded to me, and the summer leading up, I was excited. So I get there. Long story short, I flunk almost all my classes. I lose my athletic. I use my academic, which was predominantly my scholarship. I lose my athletic, and then I was kicked out of school. I protested it, got back, but on provisionary terms that I have to have at least a 3.0 my first semester. But during that time span, for the spring 2008 semester, he did something. Looking back, we're in our late 30s now. We're both a few years shy of 40 now. We were teenagers then. He was just maybe 20. I was 18. So, or 19, and he was 20, 21. So we were young. But basically, he took the time out of his already busy day as an athlete, as a student with his own 3-4 class load. And he would get up in the morning with me. We get up at 5 a.m. and either go to the track or the field or just random street next to the school. And he would do sprint drills with me, teach me how to get better at my bounding. Because we're a jumper, or I was primarily a jumper. He was a jumper too, though. Yeah. So the reason I bring this all up and get to the point is talk about resilience, mental toughness. I can't say there's a mind, body, one, there's a Mr. Mental Muscle if that doesn't happen. So when that was going down, what made you help me? Because I don't think I've ever asked you that.
So it's funny you say that because for me, I think in my field right now, having the ability to identify talent and see, the best in people and see what they have to bring to the table is a skill that you have to have at the highest level. It's one thing when you can only see what's right in front of you. It's another thing to somewhat see the future forecast, if you will. But you always came in, you had the right zeal, you had the right personality, you had the right mindset. And if, no pun intended. I think
this is before I knew anything about psychology.
Yeah.
At this point, I was a history major.
Man. We'll talk about the presidents later. But saying that to say, I think as a captain, when you are a leader and you are a servant leader, the servitude component is huge. Not asking someone that you would not be willing to do yourself, not being willing to go a distance that you wouldn't be willing to go yourself. And I think for who I am and how I approach training, coaching, etc., even before like my injury that, derailed, like that transitioned me out, I think having the heart and having the ability to recognize people who are going to give you 110%, B, people who are worth spending that additional time on. Because it's one thing if you were like drinking, partying, just out doing everything. It's like, I ain't get enough for this guy. This guy's he's blown everything. But for someone who's just having a tough part transitioning, and that's most freshmen, as a leader, you have to be able to identify when someone is going through things. And I think some of that's social, some of that is just, hey, check-ins. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Dang, what's going on? You're not on the team? Hold on, what's happening? Right? Because and genuinely caring. Because I know we talk about some different things, but I think people genuinely caring is just such a huge component of what I do and what we do here. We do at Vanderbilt, and I think we do that better than anyone in the world. Listen, if you guys want to line it up, we'll figure it out. But saying that to say, during that time, although I was training, I was lifting, doing everything that I was doing, I didn't feel like it was fair that you were dealing in a transition, and that, it was at that point when I decided to say, hey, you're worth the training, you're worth my time, or, you're one of the freshmen who came in. It became my responsibility to make sure that, you got to see the mission through. And I think, the fact that you were able to get back on the team, the fact that you're jumping great performances, the fact that things lined up for you. And I think there's a saying that, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's easy to get up when you know that the other person who's getting up is giving 110%, like you're giving 100. Like, it's easy. And a friend, the guy I work with, Justin Byron, he said he doesn't like to use the term buy-in because it's as if you're selling something. Mm-hmm. He said, but realistically, you're
always selling though, to some degree.
To some degree.
I know semantics might be like, okay, you're not selling, but you always got to present that, why should I do this factor? That's selling. That's selling. Yeah. At the end of the day.
100%. And I think for you in that moment, to give you a short answer, I felt like you were a person who just got caught in the wrong situation. You, as a person, always give 110%. I'm never going to feel like you, like, I've never felt like you were going to shortchange the training, the workouts, and you always show up. So if you're during this time, we probably don't understand, like, we didn't call it mental health. I don't know what we call it.
This was 2007, 2008, mind you. So this is almost 2 decades ago. Oh, that seems crazy that 2007 was 2 decades ago.
Yeah, you could have went to college twice now.
Shoot, like 8 times.
But saying that to say, I think there had to be a component that we could not see. And the more that the higher levels that I operate in, the more I work with people of a certain caliber, you realize that the invisible world, whether it be force application and sprinting, whether it be the mental component, buy-in, connection, all the invisible world is just such a stronger world that people do not, not mumbo jumbo, but for the most part, when you meet someone and you're like, hey, I like that person, they didn't do usually anything super special for you to connect with them on a non physical plane. They're touching your heart.
Yeah.
So, and I think who you were aligned with who I was. And I think in me getting up and saying, hey, as someone who, as a servant leader, I wanted to make sure that, hey, if you're a person who's willing to do the work, I'm going to show up for you 110%. And I'm going to give you everything I got. because I think that's the best way to do it. Like, there's no way. No, listen, if I give you everything and it doesn't work, we at least know we tried. If I give you everything and you succeed, congratulations. But at the same time, you cannot shortchange that. So I think for me, it's seeing how hard you go and how you consistently go, even like to this day, right? I think it's a testament to who you are, and I think my wanting to spend that time and wanting to do those things. It's like, hey, nah, this guy's got it, man. He's gonna be like, he's not shirking any other work. He's not cutting corners. He's not missing. He's showing up to everything, and it's not working. And sometimes, as a coach, my philosophy is athlete-centered, meaning I need to take the information that I'm going to get directly from the athlete and make decisions. Whereas some people are just kind of running plays. Not to say that our coach at that time was doing that, but some people are able to easily adapt to certain things and some people just aren't. And that's okay. But every coach does not have the time to spend doing a one-on-one session, getting to learn where we need to work, learning your injury history. And I think that's what has allowed us to do really well at Vanderbilt as far as with the changing landscape, how things have been, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I think what you said with the whole me showing up, that's something that I think it goes to the fact that you have to always think what's next. And that's always been my brain since I was a little boy and now as a grown man, because I'll give you an example. I had a client back in, I want to say 2015, 16, so a few years back. And he has a crazy story. He was, I don't know if I ever told you the story. He was on a boat fishing with friends off the coast of Haiti. And the boat capsized. And everyone but him died, drowned dead. So he was treading water for hours and hours and hours and hours. And the thing was, he had no concept of time because he's just in the water treading. So when he finally, obviously, he became a client years later, so he obviously lived. He got picked up by a Haitian fisherman and got brought back to the coast. And he asked him, say, hey, how long was I out there and how far were we? And they're like, you're like a few miles off the coast and you're out there for like 19 hours. So it's like, oof. If he knew, he told me this. He said, if I knew I was that far out and I had that much time to wait beforehand, I would let myself drown.
Oh, wow.
It is not saying he wasn't going to fight for his life because he was younger then. He has kids, wife, all that good stuff, but he was younger then. So I think he didn't have that to live for. But it's kind of like the work that's ahead when you know, because imagine this. If you sit there and said, how do I become a D1 athlete? And you said, okay, you got to do this. Most people are going to say, you know what? I'm okay. And they're going to walk away.
Yeah.
But what happens, true high-level athletes, whether it's D1 or pro, whatever, I think, and you can maybe give more insight since you work with them more than me, at least in a performance setting versus mental, is like they have these tiers where they got to pass the threshold before they even think about that next part. But the same point remains. The whole vision of the outcome of where you need to be is always going to be there. It's just a matter of when you overwhelm yourself with, I need to think about all the time and hours and steps. So going back to my former client, you got to kind of not think about that stuff. And that's kind of what I was. I'm like, I know I'm going to get there. That was my mentality. Yeah. I didn't see 2020 or 2015 or whatever it was at that time. But I knew in that time when it elapsed, I was going to be where I needed to be. Absolutely. So that was my motivation. When you say you showed up, my motivation was, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where, but it's gonna happen.
Yes.
And that's before I knew all this sports site stuff.
So it's funny you say that because two things come to mind for me. One, you never know how strong you are until there's no other choice than to be strong.
That was my only choice at that time. I was gonna go to the Marines at one point. I entertained that for like a month. But I came back and the rest is history.
Yeah. So I think it's in those moments when the only choice is to be strong. And even the thing about your friend, like 19 hours of treading water. Like I'm an avid swimmer. I swim and I'll do like 5-10 minutes of treading water. Like, all right, that's good. I'll spend a couple hours in the pool swimming and, finding the size. But, otherwise, like,
and you're alone in the ocean, Caribbean Sea.
Oh my goodness. And fish
that's not regular water. That's not pool setting.
Oh, no.
So that's why his story alone is hats off. That man's a beast.
Well, and here's the thing. One of my philosophies, and this goes to just some of the things I feel like have been successful, is win the moment, because in a moment you can make a decision to go up or to go down. Win the moment, win the minute, win the day, win the week, win the year. Small bites, and you devour elephant. You have to take it in small bites, but you have to consistently win those moments. Winning several moments, it becomes an accumulation of winning the day. But like you said, and again, if you don't have the strength to win that moment, and sometimes we have moments of weakness, you gotta have a standard to keep you from losing the moment. Stalemating at the moment is okay. You're trying to minimize losing those moments, because if you win more moments than you lose, you win the day. And if you see it that way, and I think the way I approach things is very optimistic, because I feel like most things are based off of good decisions, or decisions that are made, or thought processes that are had. And some of that is, whether it be positive or negative self-talk, you can still make a good decision. The decision being good is one thing. How you got there is totally different, right? Because some people are like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to get on task. Boom, you got the task done. Hey, you didn't hurt anyone. No one hurt you. You got to deal with however that is how you deal with it. Some people do that because I can't remember who said it, but they said high performers have a combination of a fear of not being good enough and a goal or striving to be better than everyone else. Imagine having something pulling you and something pushing you at the same time. You're either going to fall on your face and get drugged on the ground because something pulling you towards your goal and your vision, and you're running away from something at such high speeds. You're afraid of your inadequacies, but you're so excited about your future. It moves you through those spaces and through those zones so quickly. Mm-hmm. It's crazy to me. So I think when you hear like a lot of the great athletes, there is a little bit of fear, but there's also love. And I think when you find the right recipe for those things and you install the right habits, you end up overcoming so many things that physically, you never thought you could, especially in North America, where the opportunity to do those things, like some countries are like, oh, hey, you're tall, you're gonna play basketball. And it's like, if I want to play soccer, no, you're gonna play basketball. And you have a choice. So therefore, you can will yourself to do things far beyond what you think you're capable of doing. So,
okay. So I want to use that as a segue, because when it comes to performance, there's a lot of talk of, in my industry at least, of what they need to do to be successful. And I always talk about the survivorship bias, because oftentimes they're using elite level athletes' stories to tell the depiction of why mental performance training, skills, mindset training, all that good stuff. And you already know my stance, and I get a lot of flack for it. Mm-hmm. But from the horse's mouth, a guy who actually has to put these athletes in position to win in their respective sport, which is track and field, which is consistent of dozens of different events. So from your mouth, the literal horse's mouth, the person who has to make sure these athletes are doing that, and we've had conversations about this, so what I'll say is, what actually matters? Because I scrutinize the industry not because I'm a naysayer or a contrarian. I'm more so, how do I make this person better? I get it. Not to my own horn. I get it. But there's 90% of the industry who push back on me. They don't. But I'm listening not just to you, obviously, because you're my friend, but anyone who has the market of what I'm trying to be in, I should listen to them. So what does a person who's teaching these mental skills, these athletes, need to either have, say, or do? Because it can't just be, oh, you need to be mindful and be grateful and gratitude in the moment. No, because I'm going to sound a little elitist when I say this, but That's not winning championships. You don't ask Kobe Bryant that. You don't ask Jordan that. You don't ask Brady that. They're not telling you that.
No.
So why is it that in my industry they live and die by that? So for a person who just came from nationals a month ago, the NCAA championship with numerous athletes who competed in the highest form of track in America outside of pro.
Yeah,
they didn't get there because just this wishy-washy woosah type of stuff.
So repeat the question so I make sure I'm asking the right question.
It's two parts. So why is the mental industry, in a coach's perspective, who's not in the mental industry like I am, why do they think that stuff is the end all be all, the box breathing, the visualization? Because when in actuality, when an athlete wins a championship and does what it takes to be the best in the world, it's the complete polar opposite. It's toxic. It's detrimental. It builds allostatic load. And a lot of people may not know that term, but allostasis, meaning you're overexerting, you're overreaching. Mm-hmm. That has to happen. But that contradicts everything mainstream sports psychology preaches. Mm. So I'm saying, as a person who has to be in the trenches getting these athletes right, why are these people not getting that?
I think when we talk about that, like, I can't 100% speak to where they're coming from or where they're standing. I think when you're responsible for a very particular ingredient within the formula, you want to make sure that it's the best. And I think sometimes if you only know that to be the way, although there are multiple ways, I think it makes it where it's like, hey, you got to be able to, like, emotional regulation, heart rate variability, all those different things, right? I think when we talk about being able to do those things, there's a lot other things that go into that. Like, one of the things that I learned from you specifically is the first job of the brain is movement. So if it's not emotional regulation, then the movement component of it, the stresses that we are putting to challenge those movement components, can create an anxiety feeling, can create a fear response, can create a success response where they're endorphins when they get it, right? Like, you're playing a very interesting chemical game that affects their mental health. I remember Coach Boo saying, when you're doing things really, really well in training and the things are lining up and you've communicated what it should look like when they should struggle and they see themselves overcoming, the endorphins that they get, the confidence that they get, the output that you get is just so much higher. So they don't deal so crazy in these crazy highs and lows because you've articulated how that struggle is supposed to look. So saying that to say this, one of the first rules of training is progressive overload. Mm-hmm. So if you use this word cognitive load, when I'm in shooting a free throw is pretty easy because basketball players shoot free throws all the time. Going and doing a long jump is easy because people do it all the time. Doing a long jump at the NCAA national meet in front of thousands of fans on national TV, when you only have one jump left and you've scratched it, the cognitive load, the stressors, it's crazy.
Because you're now attending to not just the task at hand, like getting your right mark, running the right way, now attending to all the pressure of, if I don't get this, I have no mark, therefore I can't score.
Yes.
And then you got also to look at the social aspect of my team, my coach. So that's one thing. There's an inverted relationship with when that cognitive load goes up, it tends that the social perception of performance and awareness goes down. So they trade off because now you're spending more time thinking about what could be, what should I do, what do I need, versus I already done this. Let's just keep it going. Yeah. But that's why people choke. That's a formula for choking.
Well, and I use the analogy. I said, if Usain Bolt could go making all those millions, I think he was like $10 million a year. If he could do all those things without needing a coach, he would. Coach Byron and I, we work as a tandem. And sometimes I'm the positional coach. He's the coach. He's the offensive coordinator and the guy in the box. The offensive coordinator can see the field from a different vantage point than the person on the sideline versus the person in the game. You need all three of those pieces to be really successful. Like I remember being young, it's like, well, we got an offensive coordinator who's up in the box. Like, yeah, they can see the field from far away, and they can help with the emotional regulation. Guess what? Me saying, hey, don't cross your feet up on the sideline may not be the answer when it's like, hey, from up in the box, he's giving him a double move, but he's also talking trash to him. So now he's trying to make sure that he's not getting beat. He's throwing him off of his game, so now he's making mistakes. Instead of saying, hey, listen, don't let him get in your head. Don't do this, don't do that. Or like being able to lock into, is this a technical issue? Is this an emotional issue? Because in those moments of fight, flight, or freeze, you have to be able to thrive.
Flourish. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, or flourish.
Yeah.
You don't want to just freeze or flight.
100%. And that's what it is. It's like the goal is to safely and effectively put you in challenging positions. The vertical jumps is probably one of the most mentally taxing events on you because guess what? Even when you win, you always end on a fail.
Yeah, because you got to go out with missing the bar.
You got to go out
because effectively we just keep going higher and higher, and that's impossible.
Exactly.
It would end at 13 feet or something like that.
So think like one of the things Coach AT, one of my director of track and field, she's amazing. She said a lot of times you'll see vertical jumpers doing something like mental gymnastics in between, because if it's one thing when you're in a sport like baseball, similar where it's like, hey, I have to do something and then I go and sit down, and then I have to do something again and I have to sit down. When you're on defense, there's a constant alertness. When you're at bat, I have a moment of time where the show is mine.
Literally in your hands.
Yeah. And I have 3 opportunities. Listen, the crazy thing with baseball is you don't get 3 more if you do it right. It's like, hey, I get 3 attempts to get this thing. If I do it right, like in the high jump or the pole vault, right? Like, if I do this right, I clear this, barring the wind's not blowing crazy, barring that I have the right equipment, barring that I feel good today, I didn't get into it with my girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, right? Me and my coach is not having a heavy training block where my legs are heavy, because that's another level of stressor, which is like fatigue training. Hey, being able to execute. Diego Flacker, currently coach at the University, Ohio State. He said something to me on a podcast. He said that to me on a podcast that I did. He said, fatigue and train is stress in the meets. And it goes back to, we talk about if the brain's first job is movement, how do I challenge it? Under duress, it has to be fatigue. There has to be stressor. There has to be parameters. So I can tax it psychologically by saying, hey, you got 1 jump today. Warm up really good. If you get it, you get more jumps. If you don't get it, it's done. And now a kid's like, what? And they're frantic. Especially anytime we have these 1 jump practices, they are frantic. I have 1 opportunity to get it right. Or I don't get any more of the thing that I enjoy doing. That's like saying, hey, you got 1 free throw today. If you make this free throw, you get more free throws today. If you do not make this free throw, you're done for the day, and we're going to run laps and do everything else but shoot free throws. And it's like that stress, that mental stress, that mental load, that level of focus, you start to realize how to deal with those athletes in pressure. And then, hey, we're coming off a heavy weight session. You got 1 bar. You want to put the carrot in reach, because you don't want to destroy their confidence. You also don't want them to get injured. Like these two, and this is coaching load, because for us, these variables have to make sense. I can't put you in an impossible situation like 19 hours of treading water when you've never done it before. But guess what? Clearly, it can be done in the right environment. Because guess what? He only had one time to get 19 hours of treading water right.
Love or death.
He had one time to get it wrong. He was the only one that made it. So we're trying to create highly stressful situations.
That's my methodology right there. And that goes back to my original question of why don't, so that's perfectly gets back to where we started is why don't the industry listen to that? Because majority of practitioners get that, I think, but the methodologies don't line up with that. It's not saying that they don't understand you need to be stressed or you need to overcome those type of stimuli, but the training, the skills, the sessions don't mimic that. And that's where I made it my kind of like life's work that we need to have this resemble this to some degree because the talking, like I say, hey, Harold, last meet you false started. What was going through your mind before the gun went off? We can do that. That's fine. But if that's the only thing we talk about, and I guess, because we had a conversation like a few months ago, and I'm going to be a little facetious right now, but it's like the elite level athlete ain't trying to hear all that. If you tell me I'm about to go to a championship meet, game, World Series, whatever, and you hit me with, hey, you got to be calm under pressure, breathe, don't let the stress get to you. If you tell me that and I'm about to walk into the World Series or the Super Bowl or the NCAA track championships, hello, you just told me what I already knew.
Oh, for sure.
But that's what the industry looks like. We're just giving these, basically it's tips.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I want to be like, okay, I put you under. So like with the cognitive drills, right? For the longest, people relegated me to like brain games. But that's not what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was reiterating what your actual sport, tactical, business, whatever your demographic was. What did that look like? How do I put you under similar duress? And not only what was your score, because people are so short-sighted. Okay, score is great because it gives me an objective measure. But when I was at Vanderbilt, you mind me saying who we were working with?
For it.
So we're working with Ro. It's like I got to see in real time how she adjusted when things didn't go her way.
Yep.
How she didn't like the stimuli, but she had to overcome it though. Yeah. And she did it.
Oh yeah.
So the outcome was cool. We could measure and say, okay, you got it right. Your score is good. Whatever. But the intangibles, because I was joking to say my job is to make the intangible tangible because mindset can't be seen. I can't see your neurons. Now you could argue you could put on an EEG headset, but that's not the same.
No.
With a bicep, I can say, oh, your bicep got 2 inches bigger.
Yeah.
Or you bench 30 more pounds.
Yeah.
But with her, it's like I could sit there in real time and see where you started saying, oh man, this sucks, or oh man, I don't know. And I'll ask you, why are you saying that? So instead of me coming back a week later after she did or didn't do her good jump, maybe she did, maybe she didn't, I don't know. Instead of come back a week later and say, hey, why didn't you do well? What happened? I'm saying it right now while you're doing these jumps. I noticed you were stutter stepping because in your mind, you straight up was saying things that was wrong based off this drill.
Yeah.
Like I'm giving you the feedback to make it better.
Yes.
But we're not doing that in this industry. And that's why I asked you the question. I know it's kind of like a biased question because it's pertaining to my philosophy, but I say it because I want people to see it. So if someone from this industry sees this and it's like, okay, this is not just Nick trying to say, do it my way or the highway. You're a person who has to get these people right mentally, even though your job is not quote a mental coach, but it low-key is.
So I would say this, a lot of coaches, specifically in track and field, because it's you against you, that is a psychological game, right? Me being better than I was yesterday. And guess what? Me feeling and doing and performing better as far as in training and not executing better. Because those are two different things, right? When I'm on, like, if I can do it in basic training, technically I should be able to do it on the battlefield, and I get in the battlefield and it doesn't happen. So when we talk about what you do specifically, and, being at Vanderbilt, you deal with a lot of very bright young ladies. You deal with a very great supporting staff. You have a ton of people who are able to help them, guide them, and put them in the right positions to handle high levels of cognitive load. You're talking about a student athlete who may be running an organization, who's got a 4.0, who's also competing in the hardest conference in the world, the SEC. That is cognitive load. And they embrace that. Like one of the things we talk about is that we do both. We're able to do athleticism and we're able to do academics at a high level and do it well. In doing that is understanding how to manage people who are capable of doing those things. And that is when to push, when to pull back, when to say, hey, you okay? Let's shut it down today. You're like, mentally you're there, physically you're not. So for the coaches, like, and I know some coaches at some different, Ivy institutions, etc. And you structure your training because if we say that the physical follows the mental, right? And you can change the mental, according to change your mind. You can get the mindset to change and you can get the body on board and warm it up and get some things going. It is not difficult. It's not difficult to be able to execute in those scenarios to the best of your ability on that day, because it's about doing it on the day. I think with the drill like that you did with rowing specifically, I think about it like this. If I have a midterm coming up that I've been studying for, so I have numbers in my head for chemistry or stats or accounting. So I have numbers in my head. I'm thinking about those things because I don't want to forget them. I'm going to give myself a mental reprieve from that in a physical realm with something I enjoy. However, it is also a stressor because if the session goes well, I get endorphins. I feel good. If the session goes poor, it is bad. So now I'm drowning in the classroom and practice is going bad. And my coach is looking at me crazy. And I got, and I may want to talk to my family like, well, who's going to, not even in a malice way say, hey, how was your day? In a very general sense. And you're going to have to say, it's good. When it's like, nah, I'm tanking in class. I'm tanking in this thing right now. You might end up performing well on those tests. You might end up performing well on those meets. But in that moment, going back to winning that moment, you were not winning. And having the ability to learn the lesson that you need to learn. Because guess what? When you're at the Olympic Games, you may not be in the moment. That moment may be down and you have to figure out how to win it. Like one of the things that I allow for my vertical jumpers to create their own identity. And what the word that they used and the person that we used, the word they used was clutch, because you want to be clutch. Everyone says they want to be clutch. It's like, well, what does it mean to be clutch? To be able to execute at a high level when the chips are down. And the person that we look at, that we talk about at a very high level is Robert Horry. Oh, Big Shot Bob. You can use Tom Brady, because early on in Tom Brady's career, Tom Brady was not a starter at his position. But when the chips were down, it's late in the season, under duress, those are the people who turn up. And as a coach, you have to know, hey, who do I got to bring up? Who do I have to bring down, calm them down to get the right levels for them? Hey, if they're popping, they're good. Hey, let them go. Let her go. She's good. It's going to be like, oh, you don't think she's too high? She's good. Hey, such and such is kind of low. Leave her alone. She's over there reading a book. We are actually in a good space. If she were not reading a book right now, I would be concerned. We're like, one of my high jumpers, she will crochet. She was a high school phenom, like really, really good, number one in the country, won some national meets and does some things. And she will be on the sideline crocheting. And I was like, early on, I was like, as a coach, again, you got to know your athletes. And I think when you talk about the industry, if you use a cookie cutter tactic and you do not get to know the person, what success looks like, what preparation looks like, what high level looks like, does not always look like what people think it looks like. And you got to talk to parents. Hey, leave them alone. They're good. Or just over there, Christian, they're not even engaging. Hey, leave them alone. Then leave them alone. They're good because they know how to. This is how they are regulating, and sometimes it's separating the athletes because one might need to be up and one might need to be down, and that's managing a group. Because it's one thing to have one athlete. When you deal with groups of athletes, groups of individual athletes, and it's like, dang, this group is up and that group is down, and this person's up and that person's down. And, if I let both of them be up, one has a great day and one tanks. I let both of them be down a little more mellow. This person has a great day, that person tanks. And then don't even get me started with track and field. You get this mental gymnastics or this imposing of pressure on other people. So I was as an elite sprint coach, they have a thing in track and field called the call room. Right before, at the elite level, you go and sit in a room with your opponents, the people you're about to race. And I think the women's 100-meter dash and the women's 100 hurdles is probably the most mentally stressful situation because you have women, UMIC. They're physically trying to mean girl and impose on you psychological stress. Do drills around you, man. Like I got a video on my page with Ben Johnson starred. Ben Johnson's a great guy. And you see Carl Lewis is not giving this guy any attention. Ben Johnson did probably one of the best stuff I've ever seen in the world. Like that cat, it looked like it was Photoshop how fast he got out of those blocks. Carl Lewis is looking down the track as if Ben Johnson's not even there. So I think in the industry, I think you have people who are, and I think people evolve, and I think people know what they know, and they know what they understand, and they know where they're trying to deal. Because I think when you have sports psych as opposed to mental performance, we're dealing in different things.
Yeah,
but
semantics.
There's only one human body. So I'll give you an example. When coaching multis, heptathletes, you'll have events that are up and events that are down. And guess what? And when the up events are down, the down events are up. How those events correlate to each other. Let's say so I'll give you a story. We were working on the long jump with a few of our athletes and we're trying to fix it. So we're spending more time, more effort to rewire the nervous system to do this thing we wanted it to do in the long jump. Great. Boom. Everyone has a personal best in the long jump, right? That's good. We get to the high jump, and because we've done these physical reps, and the brain's first job is movement, the brain says, hey, we've done a lot of this thing with jumping in the long jump. We're at the high jump now. The brain don't know the difference.
Perception.
And now the high jump is like, hey guys, why are we jumping into the bar? And it's like, the adjustment that we made in the long jump showed up in the high jump because we talk about myelin, we talk about motor learning. Mm-hmm. Guess what? If we did more reps over here of jumping takeoffs, whenever the body wants to jump and take off, it's going to whatever's been reinforced. So we spend this extra time, and now we come over here and it's like, hey, our high jump is off right now. And if you can't catch it with your eye and you can't line it up, guess what? You're in trouble. And I think what you do and teaching people how to be mentally agile is so key. Because if you can compartmentalize, shift gears, and be able to say, hey, the rhythm, the timing, the neurological output for this event looks like this. And as a coach, you have to be able to identify it also. So.
Now, there's a lot of insights because, like I said, I asked that question with the intent of kind of like selfishly getting an insight for my industry. But all in all, anyone from any demographic could take some from that. So what I want to do, we usually wrap up with something I call a take home two. So it's 2 tidbits of information that you give to the audience. It could be literally a phrase, could be a concept. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just 2 things that once they shut this podcast off, they say, I could put this into action now. So it's like a call to action that they could do. So it could be simple as go home and make sure you brush your teeth 2 times a day. And I'm playing. But basically 2 things that you feel fit from your experience that give them that they can take home with them and do it. So if you think about it, or if you got something already.
No, hey, ready to go off the dome. I would say first things first, you got to progressively overload the system. So rule number 1, stress it. Rule number 2, support it and re-stress it. Meaning it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to go and put you through a challenging workout. That is the first. You do stress tests to see how things are going to stand up. You have to support the stress test if you want it to be successful. Meaning, okay, hey, let's break this down. Where did we fall apart? And you can't be emotional in that thing. So stress it, support it, and re-stress it. You got to make sure that you support it. If you do not support it, but like if you build a bridge, what do they do? Stress test. Hey, how much load can this handle?
Strength of materials. That's the whole course in engineering. Understanding what the strength of each materials that are used in building things, so you know what load to build or what to use when you're building it.
And what we say, these kids are built different. So if you're not building with the same material, you got to support it a different way. Everyone keeps using this term saying the kids are different. The kids are different. It's like
difference always happening.
Yeah. So stress is good if you understand how to use it in the proper way. So make sure that if we're talking about creating performance, you have to stress it.
Okay.
Then you have to support it. That means giving tools, giving cues, also stepping back, letting them use the cues and trying it again. Because if they ultimately, especially as a track and field coach, in track and field, they go to meets in other countries around the world, eating food they've never eaten before, in beds they never slept in before, around people and languages they never heard before. And they have to be able to be themselves in a foreign environment. So you have to support them and re-stress them. Because if you do not support them, you're just somewhat breaking them. And some people are highly adaptable, but they get in certain environments, it's like, oh, the food was bad and this and that. And it's like, what? Is that what we're talking about? The food? Listen, when you went to X country, I'm not gonna blast no countries out about their food. You know that they weren't gonna be eating Lowry's. You know, it wasn't gonna be mom's home cooking. So show up, be able to be adaptable, be supported, be prepared, and then work through the stress again. So that's it.
All right. Pretty good stuff. So tell them where they could find you online, social media, websites, etc.
1080 Speed. 1080 Speed is my main page. Coach HD USA is also my Vanderbilt page. So.
All right. So thanks for tuning in. This is obviously just something we were doing because he was in town. We had the Dustin Poirier fight last night. So he was supporting, coming through to sunny South Florida at the One House. Like I said, Deerfield Beach is the mindset mecca. I'm coining that term. If you want to be the best in the mental health performance field, you got to come through here. So since he was here, I said we had to do this. It's the first one in over a year. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And as always, get your mind right.
Get your mind right.